All right. Hi, everyone. It is November 18th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and it's time for Stories Live. So tonight's theme is apartment life. And thanks to Deb Courtney, we actually had a prompt for this particular episode. It wasn't absolutely required, and it wasn't absolutely required that everybody did something about apartment life, but for those who decided to be up for the challenge, the prompt was, it's not living so close to others that bothers me so much. It's the possibility of finding other people's toenails in my carpet. And it's actually kind of funny because this is probably an overshare, but I was clipping my toenails the other night and I thought of that and I was just like, yeah, that really is something you wonder about, because it's like you walk around the apartment, it's usually wall-to-wall carpet, hear crunches, and try not to think too much about what's there. So anyway, we have a good show for you tonight. We have Steve Hooker, who's going to be playing some tunes. He goes by Hooker, I guess, because that's what he wants to be called. I don't know if it's just that Deb calls him Hooker all the time, but and after that, we'll have Jeff Wood reading, and Emily Bybee will be reading an excerpt from her novella, which is actually available for download for free. It's sort of a prequel to her 6-book series, which is the Echoes of Magic series. And her most recent book actually came out on October 19th. So it's available out there if you want to check it out. And after her, we'll have Steve Anderson and wrap up with Katie Webster and a little discussion with all of our guests. So I am going to go ahead and add Hooker to the stream here. Hi.
Hello.
So, Steve, let's see, or maybe you answered this. I asked if you were taking tips, and you said you can always use some good advice. Well, do people have a way to tip you on PayPal or anything, or are you just here as slave labor entirely?
Sure. I mean, if they want to, they can. I don't know if I need to. I don't want it to be a plug for that or anything, but yeah,
all right,
that'd be cool.
Well, yeah, just send me your info and I can share it with the peeps in the chat, or if you have a Facebook page or anything, I'll put that up there. So yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about your set for tonight?
Well, to be honest, I didn't put much thought into it other than I just got this new 12-string guitar.
Wow.
4 days ago, last Thursday. So I guess 6 days ago. And so I've been playing a lot of acoustic, which I haven't done recently. I've been playing mostly electric, like heavier distorted guitar stuff. So I just started playing some songs that I used to play a while back and picked the ones that I can pull off on this 12-string. So nice. Kind of like a function over formality sort of.
Well, this sounds interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a 12-string guitar until now.
Well, now you have.
So this is the first. I didn't think that.
Keys on me.
Wow. How do you tune that thing?
It's got, so the top 4 strings are tuned an octave apart. So it's the same note. And so there's a low note and then an octave higher. So you have, and then the bottom 2 strings are tuned to the same pitch.
Interesting.
So that's the standard 12-string tuning, and then you can tune. I mean, there's so many different tunings that you can use. You can do a drop D tuning, which you would drop both of the highest string and the lowest string down to D, and that would be an open D chord just by strumming the strings open.
Oh.
And then there's variations upon variations, which I don't know much about because I like just standard tuning usually.
Yeah, well, I mean, you definitely know a lot more about music than I do. So, probably I need lessons is what this comes down to. But anyway,
I can use lessons too. I'm always learning new stuff. I
all right.
learned how to get a live stream up on camera on the internet today. So you've taught me stuff too.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm always happy to do that. Always happy to help you out. And, you're just the best anyway, Steve. So.
Thank you. Also, there's another Steve on the thing tonight. So I just put Hooker because I figured that way there wouldn't be any confusion.
Oh, gotcha. Well, Hooker is funny. So,
It has a certain ring to it.
All right. Well, I will let you take it away and break a leg.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. So I'm just going to play a couple of instrumentals, and then I'll probably finish up with a couple of songs where there's some vocals too. So this is called Untitled. And the next song is also called Entitled. So Entitled 2. This next one also has no lyrics. And this is called Faded. for the last song, this is a tune called Whole. And that would be WHOLE. She wants to be like a ghost from all the stampede horses while you're slow. Changes everything I know. Try to hold it together too long and I can't remember when I was old. And now it's this their choices, things in the soul. So full of it, she doesn't even know. Put it back together too long and I can't remember when I was old. I take the flowers out you wanna bring. It's where she lives now, no matter what I say. We had it all once upon a lifetime, but now she's gone. I'm all alone. There's so much glue and sealing wax you can use to hold it together. And that's the set. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yay! Thank you, Steve.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, did you survive your, online debut? Okay.
I don't know. My heart hasn't started beating again yet. So.
Okay. Well, that's all right. I mean, it just, these things take time. But I guess you mentioned you had a beverage, preferably an alcoholic one, so you can just like revive yourself in the meantime. Nice. Yes. All right.
I love Contigo cups because they keep your beverage fresh.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've been looking forward to it all week. A little bit of jitters, but the new guitar kind of helped me get a little more motivated. So thanks to you, I have a new guitar.
Sweet. Well, I'm happy to enable anybody's shopping. So
all right, I will return the favor.
All right, cool. All right, Steve. I'll probably see you in a bit for the discussion at the end if you want to hang out with us.
I will.
All right, cool. See you in a little while. Okay, so that was Steve Hooker. And the next person up we have is Jeff Wood. So, hi, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. It's November of 2020. We started doing this, I think, in March. And I think we're all still here. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I think it's my third time reading here. So yeah, it's very cool.
So, and none of us have dropped dead yet. This is good. I mean, either that or zombies, but that's cool too. So, all right. So what have you got for us tonight?
I have got the first story I ever got paid for. It's called Saint Betty.
Nice.
It was in a magazine that lasted, I don't know, like 4 or 5 issues, but they actually gave me money. So it still counts, I figure.
I think that definitely counts. Yeah. I mean, anyone who gives you money, they've got to be, they were great at the time that they gave you.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Well, I will leave you to it. So,
okay. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Wood. This is called Saint Betty. It's from a larger set of stories called Snapshots of Metcalf in Cairo, and it's on Amazon if anybody wants to go out and buy it. At any rate, this is Saint Betty. The second time Lainey told Metcalf she didn't do drugs anymore was when they were smoking a joint together in the town square. The first time had been back in the bar where he had met her. The name of the bar was the Tip Tap Lounge. It was the only bar in Cairo, Mississippi. And within the first 5 minutes of meeting Metcalf there, she was telling him all about how she didn't do drugs anymore, along with a lot of other things. And now in the park, she was telling him again. But first, she told him about Betty Rubble. It's a story I learned from my sister, she said, and it's true about her kid who was like 4 years old at the time and loved Flintstone vitamins, thought they were candy. Her name was Annie, the kid, not my sister. And one day Annie took the bottle of vitamins with her under the dining room table and sat down on the floor and poured all the vitamins out in front of her. Then she picked out all the Barney Rubbles one by one and ate them. After the Barneys were gone, she went after the Dinos and ate them too. Betty was next. Betty Rubble, Barney's wife. But as hard as she looked through the vitamins, she couldn't find any Bettys. Not one. Because as I found out later, there aren't any Bettys in the Flintstone vitamin jar. I even bought some and looked. They've got Fred and Barney and Dino and Wilma. They've even got Fred's car. But no Betty Rubble. And that's when my sister found her, when she was sitting there on the floor looking for Betty Rubble, too young to figure out that Betty Rubble wasn't there, didn't even really exist. She ate maybe 30 vitamins at that point, which for a 4-year-old is nearly a toxic dose. My sister took her to the hospital. She had her stomach pumped. Everything ended up okay. And when it was all over, the doctor told my sister that if Annie had gotten hold of 10, 15 more vitamins, it would have killed her. He was lecturing her about leaving poisonous stuff out where Annie could find it. But all my sister kept thinking was that if there had been any Betty Rubbles in the vitamin bottle, her kid would have found them and eaten them. Her kid would have died. Betty Rubble saved Annie's life by not being there. My sister didn't even know that vitamins were poisonous. I mean, they're supposed to be good for you, right? Well, a lot of things are supposed to be good for you, said Metcalf. It was a weird summer, said Lainey. We were doing a lot of drugs. Not my sister, but me and 2 of my friends. 3 of us living in this house together. Dirty couches or dirty clothes on the couch, dirty dishes in the sink, fingernails on the carpet. No one had a job and we were all on unemployment. So all of our checks would come on the same day and we would go out and cash them and buy drugs. 3 unemployment checks will buy a lot of drugs. And I mean like drugs, no dorm room white boy bong hits during Saturday morning cartoons. Real drugs, coke, morphine, yada, yada, yada. It was like Christmas twice a month. We were out of control, bouncing off of walls from early afternoon on into the night every night for a week and a half at a time until we ran out of money. Then we'd sit back, grit our teeth, and wait for the checks again. And one night, Sue and me decided to stop because it was just getting crazy. And we told ourselves that we were both going to go out and look for jobs the next day. But there was still some coke left or morphine maybe. Towards the end, we were getting these hospital vials of pure morphine for almost nothing. Anyway, Cliff, it was me and Sue and Cliff who lived there. Cliff wanted to keep on getting high. So me and Sue broke all the small needles, the ones we were using, and left Cliff with this big monster needle that was too big to fit into me or Sue, easily the size of a pencil lead. But after a few hours, it didn't seem to matter. Me and Sue were dying to get high, so we ended up using that big needle of Cliff's, even though we were like ripping open our veins trying to get it in. Things were getting bloody. And late in the night, I took this huge hit because half the stuff in the works would miss the vein anyway. The needle was just too big. So I was compensating that. And, well, also because the morphine was almost gone. So Cliff hits pay dirt. Finally, first time that night, I get the whole hit. Perfect fucking timing. And I pass out on the bathroom floor. Too much. I had to have been pretty close to an OD, but I guess they took my pulse and decided I wasn't dead. They didn't want to call the hospital because they figured we'd all get arrested, and we would have, although I'd rather be in jail than dead. I woke up after a while. I was lying on the couch. My arm was all crusty with dried blood. Sue and Cliff were watching TV. They seemed relieved that I was still alive. But after a while, they all seemed relieved that I was still alive, but after a few minutes, they turned back to the television. And I just laid there on the couch listening to the Weather Channel. And after I realized I was okay, I thought of my sister and Annie, and then I thought of Betty Rubble. I saw her surrounded by candles like those statues of saints you see in Catholic churches. She was wearing that weird caveman dress she had. The choir in the background was humming the Flintstones theme song with harmonies and everything. It made me laugh. It made me feel better. Metcalf said, "So Betty Rubble's what, sort of a patron saint of the drug overdose?" Wondering after he said it if it sounded insensitive, but then Laney said, "Yeah, that's good. I like that." "They should have taken you to the hospital," said Metcalf. "I don't think they wanted anyone from the outside to come into the house," said Laney. "Sure, they didn't want to get arrested, but it was more than that. It was like our own little dream world inside that house. If we had let anyone else come inside, it would have broken the spell. We were like a family." Neither of them said anything for a while. The joint was finished. "So that's the last time I did drugs," said Laney. "Want to go back to the bar?" asked Metcalf. "Bar's closed," said Laney. Metcalf looked out over his shoulder and saw that it was true. The lights were off inside, and a group of 4 or 5 people were hanging out in front, trying to get enough money together for a 6-pack. "Bar's closed really early here," said Laney. "You haven't been in town long, have you?" "No," said Metcalf. "How long are you staying?" "A while. I don't know. I thought this was material they'd covered back at the bar." "Well, bars close at 1 here." It was quiet in the park. Metcalf found himself staring across the grass at a statue of a guy on a horse. The guy was holding a sword. The light from the streetlights shone on the metal of the statue and made it look like a giant toy soldier made of plastic. "Let's get out of here," said Metcalf. "Okay," said Laney. They both got up off the bench. "We were like a family," she said again, suddenly. Metcalf turned to look at her. "That's not always a good thing," he said. They began to walk across the town to Laney's apartment. There were houses on both sides of them as they walked. The rooms inside the houses were dark. Metcalf tried to envision the rooms, fill them with light, examine the contents, but found he couldn't. It was as if the doors were locked against him, the windows bolted shut. No way to gain entrance. No clue as to what lay inside. Nearing her apartment, Laney said, "I should tell you I've got a boyfriend. He lives in Montana. We're going to get married one day." "We're going to get married one day." "Congratulations," said Metcalf. "What's his name?" "Bob." She paused. "We have an open relationship." "Well, Montana's a long ways away," said Metcalf, trying to sound supportive. He didn't know what else to say. The end. Thanks for listening.
I just get the feeling that the Bob's not real. I don't know.
Say it again.
I get the feeling Bob's not real in that. I just, have that feeling. It's like, whenever somebody's got like the significant other who like lives somewhere else, it's like, oh yeah.
I just write them. Actually, there is another story about Bob and Laney meeting on a Greyhound bus called The Hand Thing. This is back when I was kind of writing all these stories that connected together. So there really is a Bob, but they don't. There really is a Bob, but they don't have a relationship when she meets Metcalf, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, yes. I have my own theories about this now. Okay. Well, all right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, I will see you again in a bit.
Okay.
All right. And so next we have Emily Bybee, who tells me she doesn't usually do these things. I'm assuming she was talking about reading online versus like doing drugs, like Jeff was talking about. She seems like a wholesome lady. All right. So, hi, Emily. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Actually, my nickname when I used to wait tables was Angel because nobody believed I would drink or do drugs or anything. So I don't know. I don't know why I have that impression on people.
So there's like this whole other side?
I don't know. I guess I am pretty naive about a lot of things, but I grew up with 4 older brothers, so I hear lots of stories, and then I figure, why try those? Because they didn't turn out so good. So
Okay.
maybe I learned from their mistakes. I don't know. One could hope.
Definitely. Well, so what are you reading for us tonight?
So this is the prequel that is actually available for free on BookFunnel for my series. The Unstable Magic series is a 6-book series that is basically about their sweet paranormal romance, but it's about a series of or a group of defective witches. So yeah, this is I wrote this prequel. It came out in September.
Okay.
So yeah, it kind of it's about 30,000 words, so it's a novella. So
Cool.
but so it's going to be a little bit of a shift from the last story because I tend to write kind of light, funny. I think it's funny. Yeah, sweet romance.
Well, that's okay. We like to mix it up here. So yeah, I will just go ahead and leave you to it and go back to my moderating stuff. And I know you'll do great.
All right.
So just breathe.
Yeah, that's always a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. See you in a minute.
Okay. So hello, everybody. I'm Emily Bybee, and the first book in my series is Fractured Magic. All the books are available on Amazon, except this is Escape from Magic, the prequel, which is a free on BookFunnel, like I said, or you can get it off my website, Emily Bybee Books. And yes, I usually do not do these things like Amy said, and I was more referring to get online and show my face and actually read in front of people. Because even if I'm the one that wrote it, I tend to stumble. So we'll see how I do tonight. Because I didn't practice this one. I was going to read the 3rd book and changed it up at like 20 minutes before the show. All right. Escape from Magic, Chapter 1. A honk from the driveway sent me leaping from my chair like a jack-in-the-box on steroids. Today was the day. Auditions for Grease. I dashed from my room to the head of the stairs and paused in front of the mirror to straighten my blouse and poodle skirt one last time. Senior year. My last chance to get the lead in the musical. My last chance at my dream. After I graduated, it was all betrothal and marriage and trying to have babies, blah, blah, blah. Being a witch should make life easier, not harder. I shook my head to push the depressing thoughts from my mind. With a sigh, I adjusted my headband and paused. To nail the audition, I needed to feel the part. My light brown hair, even with the headband and ponytail, didn't feel like Sandy. I bit my lip and gathered energy in my hand, then wrapped my fingers over the end of the ponytail. The hair curled into a perfect swirl. That looked a bit better, but not good enough. Might as well go all in. I ran my hand over my head from root to tip. The hair changed to a golden blonde as my fingers moved over the strands. Giggles erupted from my mouth when the sunlight glittered off my new look, much like white Christmas lights. Nerves tickled my stomach. It was a big change from the light brown, but the effect was amazing. My muscles tightened with anticipation. With one last glance in the mirror, I blew myself a kiss and ran down the stairs. No way anyone could make a better Sandy. "Oh my goodness, Clara," my mom gasped from the breakfast table. "You look just like your grandmother, especially with this new hair color." I spun to fan out the skirt, which actually belonged to my Nana. Outside in the circular driveway, the car honked again, 2 short bursts. That's Abby. I dropped a kiss on Mom's cheek and grabbed my backpack to rush out to my sister's waiting car. Tell her to bring my grandbaby back quick. I have some things I want to work on with her, Mom called after me. Mom and Maddie, my 3-year-old niece, had a special relationship, even given the sweet child's problem with magic. The problem also made it impossible for her to be in daycare, which is why my mom took her during the day. I carried my backpack, not slinging it over my shoulder as usual. Wrinkles wouldn't do for my audition. I sucked my lower lip into my mouth. Now I just needed to get through the school day without a hair out of place. For the first time, I doubted my plan to stay in character during the school. Oh my, Abby fake gasped and put a hand to her chest. Is that my best gal, Sandy? No, Mama, Maddie yelled from her car seat in the back. That's Auntie Clara, except her hair is funny. Well, sweetie, today she's Sandy, Abby explained, just for pretend. Maddie's little face scrunched up and her lips puckered out. No, it's Auntie Clara, no Sandy. She crossed her tiny arms, and her stare dared us to disagree. I stifled a laugh. The girl was as stubborn as a mule. Maddie reached out to the stack of toys in the seat next to her. I want my book. Just a sec, honey, Abby said, concentrating on driving. Sparks flashed across the back seat, centering on Maddie's favorite book. Abby twisted and slammed her magic over the sparks before they caused any damage. Honey, no magic, especially not in the car. But I want my book. Maddie's face melted into a quivering frown. Here, Sugar Pie, I said and handed her the early reader. Ask and I'll grab it for you. I let an evil smirk fall over my face. And I'll get your piggies. She squealed and pulled her feet up as I tickled the exposed toes. Abby's creased brow caught my eye as I turned back around. Still no progress? I whispered as Maddie read her book to herself. She was a smart one. Too bad witches didn't care about smarts. Abby shook her head and focused on pulling out of the gates and onto University Boulevard. Our Cherry Hills neighborhood was one of the most beautiful in Denver. But we're here to get you ready for your audition, not talk about if She stopped herself before she said the word. Defect was a dirty word in the witch world, and a dangerous one. I swallowed and glanced back at Maddie, happily reading her book. My stomach cramped at the thought of what lay ahead for her, what the council would do to her if they found out she couldn't do magic right. I faced the street, unable to let the possibility of losing her sink in. Abby took my hand. Now let's work on your lines one more time. I really think you should cry when you call out after Danny. I mean, Greece is full of teenage emotion. I let her pull me into our tradition. Every year on the day of auditions, she'd pick me up and we'd get breakfast while we went over our lines. And every year I had to end up in the chorus, not with a lead. But this year I had a good feeling. As she drove, I threw myself into the part, singing in full voice even in confined space. Oh, Danny, I finished my lines. Wow, Abby cheered as we pulled into a parking place and she handed me my breakfast sandwich. Wasn't Clara amazing, Maddie? Auntie Clara's sad, Mama, Maddie piped up, her book forgotten in her lap. Make her happy. No, we don't use magic unless a person wants us to. Abby sent me a sideways glance. What? I said, my eyes narrowing. We could make sure you get the part, she began. No, I cut in. Absolutely not. Come on, one little spell and they'll be sure to pick you. I held up a hand. The director has to choose the best person for the role. I would never interfere with the sanctity of the theater by cheating my way into a part. Abby rolled her eyes. It's not church, Clara. No, I shook my head. If he decides to cast me as a tree, then I'll be the best tree I can be to support my castmates. Wadding up the rest of my breakfast, I tossed it in the bag. Think what would have happened if Shakespeare was bespelled to cast someone else as Juliet. He may never have gotten the accolades he deserved. He probably gained popularity because of a spell, Abby countered. You have no way of knowing. Anyway, it's time to get you to school, then drop this troublemaker off with Mom. 7 years older than me, Abby already had graduated college and was now pursuing her doctorate in history at DU, same as her husband. At least she gotten lucky in that department. Justin was as sweet a guy as you could ask for, not a guarantee with arranged marriages. We stopped in front of my private school and I hopped out of the car with a wave and a kiss to Maddie. Remember what we tell her? Abby asked Maddie. I don't want to tell her to break a leg, Mama. It would hurt, Maddie frowned, then turned to me and yelled at the top of her lungs. Don't break your legs, Auntie Clara. Okay, Munchkin, I laughed. I'll be careful. The darkness of the stage enveloped me. Dropping my backpack and books on the floor, I paced in a 4-foot area, shaking out my hands to keep them from going numb. I'd managed to keep myself fairly put together. My ponytail had held, and I ducked into the bathroom to touch up my makeup. I'm ready. Clara Stark, called the director from the auditorium seats. I sucked in a breath, let a mask fall over my features, and walked on stage. Blinding lights made it impossible to see into the seats. Within seconds, the heat of the lights warmed my skin. But I was no amateur. I knew the drill. Miss Stark, please begin. With a nod to the accompanist, I dove into singing with abandon. Opening with a song was risky, but this was my last chance, so what the hell? I lost myself in the role, forgetting I was a witch with only a few months of freedom before they forced me to marry a stranger. Forgetting the cruelty of my world that would hurt a child like Maddie. I forgot everything. No, I was Sandy, a regular girl heartbroken over Danny. Though I'd never dated, I'd been heartbroken for years. Heartbroken over the love I'd never experienced. All those emotions poured out of me like water out of a sieve. Danny, my last line faded away into the expanse of the darkness. I dropped my hand, not breaking character for several moments. Very good, Miss Stark. Blinking as if coming out of a trance, I nodded and strode back to the side of the stage, carrying myself with confidence until I was out of sight. Then the trembles in my chest took over. I knew what came next. Nodding at the exclamations of how well I'd done, I hurried to the bathroom and locked the door behind me. Lunch and some of the breakfast I'd gobbled down returned to the trash can for an encore performance. Hence the reason behind the greasy sandwiches tradition. It came up way easier than most other breakfasts. I learned from experience. I patted sweat from my brow and rinsed my mouth, then opened the door to face my competition. Katie Pierce took the lead for the last 2 years. Abby had offered several times to spell her with bronchitis or something, but I'd refused each time. Getting the lead only mattered if I deserved it. But maybe a secret part of me was hoping she'd trip during her audition. A really small part. Katie's voice carried from the stage, pure and strong as always. I hung onto the curtain and watched. She'd played an amazing Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray freshman year, but I'd been certain I earned the lead last year with my audition for Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Much to my disappointment, Katie got that role as well. Now as I listened, an unfamiliar feeling swept the nausea away. Katie, though giving a solid performance, wasn't immersed in the role. I didn't believe her feeling, her heartbreak. Glancing around, I peeked out into the audience chairs. Mr. Goldblum, the director, didn't give anything away, but sat and took notes. I bit my lip. I had a chance. This was my role. Katie finished and strode off the stage as if she owned it and everything else. Good job, Katie, I said as she went by. She nodded. Thanks, you too, Clara. Some of the tension melted from my muscles. The first part was over. We have one last audition, Mr. Goldblum called. Sam McEwen? My scrunched brow mirrored Katie's. She leaned in. I thought everybody already auditioned. I nodded and shrugged. Excuse me, ladies, a male voice said from behind us. I turned and froze. Every cell in my brain sputtered to a stop. I stood like an idiot and stared as the epitome of a male heartthrob approached. Chapter 2. Wish me luck? Sam took a breath as he slid past us. His clean scent, almost like a fresh breeze after a rainstorm, washed over me. Blinking, I snapped my mouth shut. Break a leg, I called a few beats too late. He glanced back and sent me a quick wink. With his ash blonde hair and blue eyes, he didn't look the part of Danny. But same as me, he dressed for the audition. He wore a tight white t-shirt that showed off his chest. Man, could he pull that look off, especially with his sleeves rolled up over his toned biceps. None of the guys in our theater group could compete with the musculature Sam possessed. He looked more like an athlete or a model or a Greek god. I snapped my mouth shut before the drool trickled down my lip. Who the hell is he? Katie breathed. I'd remember seeing him around. She dated her last 2 male co-stars. The years in her head reflected in the gleam of her eye. In her mind, he was already hers. Usually I'd walk away, I couldn't date anyway. My husband had been chosen for me when I was 2. But this time I didn't. I stood in place as if my feet had grown roots. Ignoring Katie, I managed to send him a small smile before Sam turned to face the audience. He started into his audition, pulling me in with his perfect Danny strut, his flawless delivery of the lines, and his stage presence. Then he opened his mouth to sing. I'd heard of people going weak in the knees before, read it, seen it in movies, even acted it on stage. But this time I felt it, like lean against the wall or I'd fall over, felt it. Oh, he is so my leading man, Katie said and licked her lips, a female eyeing her feast. For the first time in my life, I had to resist the urge to use my magic to get a part. It would be so easy to nudge Mr. Goldblum's thoughts in the right direction. Putting Sam with Katie would be a travesty, an affront to the very idea of theater. A sin, really. Energy gathered on my fingers, begging to jump off to do my bidding. At the last second, I pulled back, reabsorbing the energies into my tissues. I smoothed my blouse and watched Sam finish his audition. I should say something to him. As he came off stage, my mouth dried up like the Sahara. Never mind, better not talk. I stood stiff as a wooden statue, looking like a moron. Nice job, Katie said as he rushed past us and made straight for the bathroom. We stood in silence for a moment as the auditions wrapped up and the theater kids meandered out the door. Sam's audition, a popular topic of conversation. Someone mentioned he'd just transferred from Connecticut. Clara, you did amazing, one girl called and waved. Love the hair. I waved back, thanks. Katie stiffened, then turned to me and leaned in. She's right. You really improved over last year. If you want, I can put in a good word with Mr. Goldblum, so you get to be one of the Pink Ladies. You'd be great as one of my backup singers. Tongue-in-cheek, I nodded slowly. Wow, Katie, that's really sweet of you, but no worries. I'm happy with whatever role he casts me in. She wrinkled her nose, thrust it in the air, and turned and walked out the door. I rolled my eyes and bent to gather my backpack and books from the floor. Let me help you with those. Strong hands reached in front of my vision to pick up several books. I blinked and stood up to meet Sam's gaze. His face mere inches from my own. He ducked his head and broke the contact. Swallowing, I struggled to remember English, Spanish, any language, any word. Nothing. Heat crept up my neck and burned my cheeks. We stood for a moment, his head cocked to the side as if waiting for me to speak. My gaze settled on his chest. The plain white t-shirt outlined his pecs perfectly. That wasn't helping. All I could do was nod my thanks and rush away before he decided I was crazy. God, I'm such an idiot. As soon as I rounded the corner, out of sight, I leaned against the wall. My pulse pounded in my ears and drowned out the sound of the few people chatting in the hallway. Thank you, gracias, thanks, merci, danke, I muttered to myself and smacked my hand against my forehead. How hard is that? With a sigh, I pushed off the wall and headed for the doorway. Abby sat in her car against the curb. The tune to Itsy Bitsy Spider and Maddie's shouting voice emanated from the cracked windows. I opened the door and threw a smile across my lips. Hey, Pumpkin, how was your day? Auntie Clara, are your legs okay? No breaks, Maddie demanded. No breaks, promise. See, Mama, no breaks. Abby stifled a laugh. You are absolutely right, Maddie. She glanced over at me as she pulled away from the curb. This was the second part of our tradition. So how did it go? Good, I managed after I pushed the image of Sam out of my thoughts. I think it went well. A frown creased Abby's face. Okay, now you know you can't lie to me. What happened? Nothing, I answered too quickly, then shrugged. There might have been this guy. He's totally going to play Danny. He transferred in at semester's break, and Abby's face creased even more. Clara, don't go there. It's not even worth thinking about. No, I'm not thinking about him that way. I shook my head, not sure who I was trying to convince, me or Abby. He gave an amazing audition. She nodded slowly, while still eyeing me, then turned her attention to pulling away from the curb. Okay. So who wants ice cream? Me, Mama, me, Maddie called. Sounds good to me. I'm getting mint chocolate chip. My voice started out chipper, but faded when I caught sight of a tall, perfectly muscled figure coming out of the school. Sam. 2 days waiting for the callback list to be posted lasted about 10 years. People crowded around the paper taped to the wall. I waited until the crowd thinned, then peeked over to see Katie, Sam, and I topped the list. Callback lists weren't random. Being at the top meant I had a chance this year. But Katie was first on the list, and me third meant I was the underdog. I'd have to kill the second round to get the lead. Biting my lip, I spun and smacked into a wall of toned muscle. Sam gripped my arms as I stumbled back. Hey, you okay? I blinked and stared up into his face, words fleeing my brain like prey from a predator. Sorry, I didn't mean to get in your way. Sam's grin made my insides go all fluttery. No problem, I managed and rushed to my next class as if the floor was on fire. After school, the second round of auditions were only in front of Mr. Goldblum and the 2 other teachers running the play. The rest of the class waited outside in the hallway until they called our names. Katie strode over to Sam immediately and leaned against the wall next to him. Her position cut him off from talking to anyone else. Not an accident. Katie knew how to get her claws into a guy, and she had Sam in her sights. My best friend Nora wove her way through the crowd. Holy blonde, she exclaimed when her eyes settled on me. I'd hardly recognize you. Nora had been out of town at a track meet for the last 2 days. I ducked my head as Sam's gaze moved to me, a grin on his lips. Katie cast me a disdainful glance and repositioned herself to block Sam's view. Nora didn't miss the exchange. She was more into sports than theater, but she sure understood drama. Her tightly spiraled hair was confined to a high ponytail, and she wore her shorts and tank top from track practice. We'd met at our first year of summer camp. Not your regular camp, one for witches. She turned a wide-eyed look my way and tilted her head towards Sam. You didn't tell me he was, gorgeous. I thought I did, I whispered. I couldn't help texting her about Sam. No, you blabbed on for an hour about his voice and acting, she arched a brow. I shrugged. Well, it's what I found attractive. She snorted. Yeah, sure, you suck at lying. Staring daggers at Katie's back, she whispered. The snake has her eyes set on him. Big shock. Nora and Katie didn't have the best history. More drama. It doesn't matter anyway. I've only got 6 months left. Nora's eyes flashed with mischief. Don't waste time. What have you got to lose? She'd taken the opposite approach in dealing with our arranged marriages, dating anyone and everyone she wanted to. Living it up, she said. I glanced at Sam, but couldn't hold eye contact whenever he managed to look my way. Come on, when Katie goes into audition, you have to take your chance, Nora pushed. Just go over there and talk to him about props or costumes or something. Right, I glared. Oh, hey, Sam, what do you think about poodle skirts? It's better than standing here and watching him like a stalker. I have to prepare for my audition. Thank you. I turned my back to Sam. The director called Katie in first. Nora excused herself to go change out of her track uniform, sending me an eyebrow wiggle as she left. Regardless of what I told Nora, I spent 10 minutes, the 10 minutes Katie was gone, trying to work up the nerve to talk to Sam. He leaned on the wall across the hallway from me. I didn't even have to move. All I had to do was speak. My pulse jumped up to a jackrabbit's pace. I opened my mouth to ask him where he transferred from, an innocuous enough question. The door to the stage opened and Katie strolled out. The rest of you hoping for the role of Sandy can go, she announced. Her gaze rested on me. I nailed it. She walked over to Sam with her hand held high for a high five. He smacked her palm. She giggled, then took up her position and chatted with him. Or more flirted with the way she flipped her hair. He smiled and my heart constricted. Oh, gag me. Nora leaned against the wall as she returned and whispered, I'd hope he'd had better taste. Me too, I answered, my gaze still glued to the pair. When Katie leaned in and pressed her hand into his muscles, I couldn't watch anymore. I might have been dreaming about what his chest felt like, but she was practically feeling him up in the hallway. The urge to use my magic to trip her or possibly do some other slightly violent spell washed over me. You want me to make her break out in massive zits tomorrow? Nora whispered in my ear. I covered my mouth to hide a laugh at the thought of Katie looking at herself in the mirror and shook my head. No, if he's into her, then it doesn't matter. Clara Stark, the teacher called from the open doorway. Pushing down the nausea, I cleared my throat and followed her inside. I gave the performance everything I had. Disappointment pumped through my veins with each beat of my heart after seeing Katie flirting with Sam and Sam flirting with Katie. I didn't have to act much. I left it all on the stage. It was up to the director now. Pushing open the door, I held my head high and strode out, refusing to let Katie or Sam see me upset. Nora fell in step beside me. I'd planned on walking past and not even acknowledging Katie or Sam. He stepped forward as I moved by and leaned down, speaking in a low voice. I think you'd make a great Sandy. Katie frowned, probably because she couldn't hear what he said to me. I met his gaze and fell into his ice blue eyes. Close up, speckles of green glinted in the blue. Realizing I should say something back, my brain scrambled for coherent words. My tongue felt as large and as awkward as a whale in my mouth. Thanks, you too. His brow scrunched and lifted, but a smile spread his lips, making his eyes appear even bluer. Mouth ajar, my brain caught up with my words, and I blinked. She means thanks. Nora saved me and tugged my arm. And good luck. I let her pull me down the hallway and out the doors to the student parking lot. At her car, I rested my forehead on the side of the new Jeep. Did I just tell him he'd make a great Sandy? Yep, you did. Nora hopped in the driver's seat. Oh, God, I groaned. Please kill me now. Nope, Nora snickered. It's way too much fun watching your version of flirting. I sent her my best glare, but she only laughed louder as we pulled out of the parking lot. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Yay! Awesome, Emily. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So was it as scary as you thought it would be?
Well, besides my cats trying to jump all over the place behind me and my son like creeping in the room where you guys can't see and like me trying to wave at me while I'm trying to read, it wasn't that bad.
All right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Hopefully I only stumbled a few times. So
no, you did good. Definitely. Yeah. So, all right. I will take you off the hot seat for now. And thank you so much for reading for us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so now next up we have Steve Anderson. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
Just been sitting here in the green room or whatever. Yeah.
In the green room, yes, with all the nerd things. Okay, so what are you reading for us tonight?
I have a story called There Once Was a Princess. And normally I write science fiction, but I'm veering out of the genre for this one.
Okay, sounds good. I will let you go ahead and read, Steve.
Okay. The Caribou Cold Storage Company renovated the abandoned warehouse near the university the year that I started grad school. They marketed the stylish lofts and small apartments to young couples and college students. We were both those things, Rachel and I, so we paid first and last month's rent from our meager combined savings and took a one-bedroom on the third floor. I met the girl across the hall when we moved in. I was carrying a lamp and a beanbag chair up the too many stairs from the rental truck out front, and she was standing in the doorway opposite ours, enjoying the relay of people passing by her as though she was at a parade. Hi, do you live here too? I pointed at the door behind her. She nodded, big brown eyes wide under a mop of unruly, mousy hair. She was dressed in a white t-shirt and denim overalls. I let the beanbag slide off my shoulder onto the floor and held my hand out to her. My name's Daniel. She hesitated a moment, chewing on her lower lip. I raised an eyebrow at her, and she decided it was safe enough to touch my hand for half a second. Kasia, she told me. Kasia Kosmatka. She thought about it for a moment. I'm 12. I'm sorry, my English is still weak. I practice each day, but she shrugged. It's okay. I'm 26 and still practicing too. It's not an easy language, even if you're born here. Where are you from? Fredonia. We came this year to here, my parents and I, the camp before that, while we waited. I don't know how long. The war there, not good for my people. I've heard that, seen the pictures. I'm glad you're safe. You must be very brave to come to a place you've never been. She smiled shyly and shook her head. Mama and Papa are brave. I cried every night. I was such a baby. Rachel puffed by with a box of books and kicked the beanbag I'd dropped out of her way. Quit your goofing off, Daniel, and get back to work. There are 5 more of these down there, and they all belong to you. I'm on it. I grinned at Kasia. I have to go, but it was good to meet you, neighbor. That woman, she mad at you? Not really. Really, she loves me. She's both. People can do both at the same time. I chuckled. Your English is better than you think it is, Kasia Kosmachka. See you around. After dinner that night, Rachel passed me a glass to dry and put away. The apartment had a dishwasher, but she had decided to use the crystal and china that she had inherited from one of her aunts for our first meal in the new place, instead of my collection of fast food cups and paper plates. So, Daniel, tell me about your new little friend. Kasia? She's 12, political refugee from Fredonia. She immigrated to the U.S. with her parents earlier this year. Seems like a good kid. She's still working on her English, so she's a little shy. Well, at least she's learning English. So many of them don't, and then it's just a big problem later. What do her parents do? I didn't ask her. I studied Rachel's profile while she washed the last dish. After that kind of trauma, the desire to hold on to whatever pieces of your culture you can is natural. It's comforting. Whatever. They should put the hellhole they came from behind them and just move on. It's what I would do. I put the dish away. I believe you would. Rachel was standing close to me when I turned around. I took her hands, kissed them, and told her, we should meet her parents, get to know them. They must have some amazing stories to tell. Do you always have to be an anthropology student? Okay, sure, if you need it for your research. She took her hands away from me, stuffed them into my back pockets, and pulled me up against her. It would be the neighborly thing to do, I told her. Uh-huh. Rachel rested her head against my chest and swayed to the music coming from the speaker on the counter. I kissed the top of her head, my eyes closed, enjoying the smell of her hair. My desire to learn more about the troubles in Fredonia faded quickly. You, don't want to unpack more before we go to bed, do you? She tipped her head back and kissed me. We worked hard, and those boxes will keep till the morning. My attempts to get to know Kasia's parents over the following weeks didn't go well. Rachel preferred to spend time with our university friends, and Kasia's mother was not subtle about her opinion of our unmarried status. The one and only dinner we had together had ended with Mrs. Kosmatka calling Rachel a kurva and Kasia running from the room in tears. I Googled the word later, but didn't tell Rachel what it meant. The door at the end of our hall opened out onto a patio on the roof of the building's west wing. It was my favorite place to study on warm autumn afternoons, and Kasia was usually there. I'd find her sitting in the sun, back against the brick parapet, lost in a book. She attended public school in the mornings for English, science, and math, then studied with her mother in the evenings. For a few hours a day, she was free to sit in the sun and read. What book today, Kasia? I asked. She looked up at me, pulled her blanket closer around her shoulders against the late October chill, and blinked her eyes to refocus. She'd probably need glasses in a few years, a small price to pay for hours lost in another world. Some old folktales, she told me, collected by A.J. Glinsky. Papa gave it to me when I was little, but he doesn't have time to read them to me anymore. He works such long hours. Are they good? Some are. They're like my life. They have things that are nice all mixed together with ugly things. I'll bet the people in them live happily ever after, just like you. She nodded, taking it seriously. Most of them do, but I think A.J. Glinsky changed the old stories to end that way. Life's not like that. She looked up at the sun and snapped the book shut. I need to go help Mama with dinner. No bookmark? How do you remember your place? By the page number, usually. I pulled the bookmark from my sociology text. Here, you can have this one if you want. I have a lot of them. Kasia stared at the bookmark with her mouth open. It has a green tassel. Yes, and tigers. Do you want it? Oh, yes. She took it and tucked it into her book before running to the door. You're very welcome, I said to no one. I told Rachel about the bookmark I'd given Kasia. She handed me a bowl of soup and plopped down into her chair at our small table. Maybe we should get married so you can adopt her. I rolled my eyes and pretended the thought hadn't crossed my mind. She has parents, ones that work hard to give her a good home. They can't afford many luxuries. Like a cardboard bookmark? Or clothes? Every time I see her, she's wearing the same thing, white t-shirt and overalls. And what was her mother cooking tonight? Roadkill? I about gagged walking down the hall. You should call Child Protective Services. Do you know the government is paying half their rent? That's what Susan, the manager, told me. Some stupid resettlement program. They're doing the best they can. Kasha doesn't seem abused or neglected. She wears the same thing every day, but it's always clean. Rachel pointed her spoon at me. That's what happens when you spend all your time studying other cultures. You start thinking that the way they live is just as good as what we have in America. It's not. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to come here. I wanted to tell Rachel that in the Kosmatka's case, it hadn't been wanting. It had been life or death. But she and I had had that argument before. Instead, I stirred the soup she had made for us, searching for a last bite of chorizo, but all that remained was kale and beans. I wondered if Mrs. Kosmatka would have liked the subtle smell of the soup, and the thought of Rachel and Kasha's mother arguing over how to fix haricot beans made me chuckle. Something funny, Daniel? No, nothing. It's just, you should have seen Kasha's face when I gave her that bookmark. It was like she'll treasure it forever. I'm sure she will. A piece of cardboard and a tassel. Daniel, I want a house in a nice neighborhood. We can't afford a house, maybe in a few years. My parents have 3. Maybe they'll let us have the one on Lake Anna. Are you sure you know how much anthropologists make? What's that got to do with it? I was still staring at her, not sure how to answer, when there was a knock at our door. Mr. Kosmatka shuffled his feet uncomfortably when I answered it. His wife frowned at me from the door to their apartment, watching as though concerned her husband wouldn't do whatever it was that she had told him to do. I waved to her, and she closed the door with a sharp click. Mr. Kosmatka, what can I do for you? He glanced over his shoulder to make sure the door was still shut. Look, I could use a cigarette. I know it's cold, but would you mind joining me? Sure, let me grab my coat. It took Mr. Kosmatka half of his first cigarette before he told me why we were standing outside in the snow. I'm to give this back to you. He handed me the bookmark with the green tassel. It wasn't right for Kasha to accept it. I'm sorry. They cost almost nothing. I didn't mean anything by it, and she seemed to love it. He blew smoke into the night air and nodded. That's the problem right there. She had it at the dinner table, staring at the picture and playing with the tassel. You don't know much about our way of life, do you? The way we lived before the war? Only what I've seen in the news. I taught high school geology. Did you know that? I'm a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. He made the sign of the Texas Longhorns and smiled at me. I worked for Exxon in the Gulf of Mexico, did mud logging in Sumatra, and mapped new sections of the Ashmari and Bagastan formations in the Avaz oil field in Iran. Then I went home, back to Fredonia. Kasha's mother lived next door to us. It wasn't an arranged marriage, but an inevitable one. Hannah had never traveled outside our country, never wondered how other people lived, because she knew our way was best. It's an uncomplicated life there. Family, faith, tradition. Nothing flashy, but always full of joy. Or it was. I wept when they killed Hannah. Sometimes I still do. But the woman Kasha calls Mama, she's not her mother? Mr. Kosmatka lit a second cigarette. I married Bahar while we were in the camp. She was from our village, and it seemed the right thing to do for all of us. Bahar's life was much like Hannah's, especially in her love for our way of life. In many ways, they are the same. In others, he shrugged. That bookmark, the way Kasha was obsessed with it, was too much for her. We don't care much for the material things of life. We take pride in owning only what we need and loving each other, not trinkets. He chuckled. Maybe that comes from generations of being poor. We have to take pride in something. Americans are rich, and you chase and love all that sparkles. Kasha took a small step away from our world into yours with the way she loved that bookmark. She was humming to herself while she played with the tassel. Kasha was always my songbird, but I had not heard her sing since her mother died. Bahar was about to take the bookmark and tear it in half, but I told her that was wrong to do to a gift, and that I would return it to you. He tipped his head. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think so. Good. You hold on to it then, okay? You'll know when the time is right to give it back to her. He shook my hand, and we went inside. I waved the bookmark at Rachel while I stomped snow off my shoes in the doorway. Was there a problem? She asked. Yeah, I suck at anthropology, and empathy, and friendship, and probably a few other things. Rachel hugged me because she knew I needed it. You suck at a lot of things, Daniel, but I'm still working on you. What happened? I told her. When I finished, she picked up the bookmark from where I'd dropped it on the couch. Put this in a safe place. How old did you say Kasia is? She'll be 13 in a few weeks. Oh boy, I know even less about their culture than you do, but I know 13-year-old girls. It's going to get noisy over there. Lots of yelling, lots of screaming and slamming of doors. Rachel seemed lost in a memory of her own life. I told her, I bet you were a terror at that age. You have no idea. I'm surprised my mom didn't kill me. I held Rachel closer and kissed her. I'm glad she didn't. The weather was dry on Kasia's birthday, and there was no wind to blow the warmth of the low-hanging sun away from where she sat wrapped in a wool blanket, her nose close to the pages she was reading. I sat in my usual chair. What book today, Kasia? Just a sec, last paragraph. Her eyes flicked back and forth, and then she glanced up at me and held the book so I could see the cover. A splash of bold red Cyrillic letters covered a princess fleeing from a castle. More folk tales. Mama said I need to read them again. They're okay, kind of repetitive. I smiled. Your vocabulary is really improving. Your parents must be proud of you. Papa is. Mama wants to make sure I don't forget where I came from. That's not a bad thing. A year ago on my birthday, we were in the camp. It rained, and there was mud, and the latrine flooded. It stunk. She wrinkled her nose at the memory. I'm sorry. Happy birthday, by the way. She looked at me with a half smile. The mischief was in her eyes. I made her wait a moment before giving in. Happy birthday, Kasia. I gave her the present I had hidden in my coat. She took it, feeling the shape under the paper. Is it a book? She asked, messing with me. Of course it's a book. I hope you like it. It's not folk tales. She tore the paper off. City of Ember. Thank you. I've heard of it. You're welcome. I thought about a few others, but so many of them are about surviving some kind of war, and you've already done that. She nodded, reading the description on the back cover. I have this for you, too. She looked up, eyebrows raised, and I pulled the bookmark from my pocket. If you think I should hold on to it a while longer, that would be okay, too. She snatched it from my fingers and hid it inside the book. I'll be more careful this time. You are coming to the Christmas play tonight, aren't you? You and Rachel? We wouldn't miss it. Did you talk your mother into coming? No, she won't come. At least she finally agreed it was okay for me to sing. First, she told me that singing up on a stage was showing off, or something worse. I asked her if a bird was showing off when it flew in the sky. Kasia leaned forward and whispered to me, I got that from an old Superman movie, and it worked. I laughed with her. Do you know the word devious? She shook her head, eyes wide. You are devious, I told her, and I'm wrong to encourage you. I held my hand out. Give that bookmark back to me. No, it's mine now, forever. We gave Mr. Kosmatka a ride to the Boone Middle School, and then sat with him in the overheated auditorium. Kasia played Clara Stahlbaum in a version of the Nutcracker without much dancing, but plenty of opportunities for her to prove that her singing wasn't just showing off. After Kasia's duet with the prince in the pine forest scene, Rachel whispered to me, she's good, not just okay for a 13-year-old good, but really good. I want to introduce her to my Uncle Nate. With Kasia's talent, her looks, once you get her out of those overalls, and her endearing backstory, wow, he'll package her in no time. I looked past Rachel to Mr. Kosmatka. He was staring at his daughter, clapping hard with tears running freely down his cheeks. Go slow, Rachel, please. Sure, whatever. You started her down this road. I answered, all I did was give her a bookmark, but I don't think Rachel heard me. Kasia and her father sat in the back seat and talked the whole way home, sometimes in English, sometimes Fredonian, and mixed 50-50 with laughter. Kasia had removed her makeup, but her hair was still full of plastic snowflakes and the fine glitter that I'd be cleaning out of the back of the car for months. Rachel and I followed them up the stairs and down the long hall, and I started to worry that their joy wouldn't last once they got home. I could see that the door to their apartment was already open, and I expected Mrs. Kosmatka's disapproving head to peer out at us at any moment. But it didn't. The apartment was dark. Mr. Kosmatka glanced at me, suddenly somber, and I could see the tension in the muscles of his jaw. I told Rachel, Take Kasha into our apartment and fix her some hot chocolate while her father and I make sure everything is all right. Rachel took Kasha's hand. Do you like little marshmallows in your hot chocolate? I have some peppermint we can add too if you want. Kasha turned to her father, spoke something in Fredonian, then said in English, Be brave, Papa. The door closed behind them, and I asked Mr. Kosmatka, what did she say? It's the last lines from an old folk tale, Kasha's favorite from when we were in the camp. I must have read it to her 100 times. It says, The dragon, pierced through the heart, fell from the sky and crashed to earth with a sound like thunder. And then the brave king and his gentle daughter lived at peace for all of their days. I took a step toward the open door and the darkness waiting for us. Mistress Kosmatka gripped my shoulder, holding me back. You don't have to do this, you know. I know, but it's what friends do. He nodded, and we went into the apartment together and turned on all of the lights. The end.
Yay! That was so awesome, Steve.
Okay, glad you like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people liked it. Okay, well, anyway, I will let you go and take a little breather before we have our, group discussion, and Katie's going to read. But yeah, thank you so much for reading tonight.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so last but not least, we've got Katie Webster up here. Hi, Katie.
Hello, hello.
So you've got your magic bean juice?
My elixir of life, yes.
Okay. Most excellent. So is this a working night for you, or?
Yeah, and ironically, it is my last night, and then I have 7 days off.
Nice.
Yes. I want to go somewhere. I just don't know where I'm going yet.
Okay. Well, sounds like you.
Spur of the moment.
Dark. Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Well, so what have you got for us tonight?
So I thought tonight I'd talk about my best friend. Well, I think he's my best. Well, we are friends. Used to be. Well, Cletus. I figure I'd talk about Cletus tonight. About our time that we spent together a while back when we were roommates. So yeah, I think we're still friends. At least I choose to believe we're still friends. I guess we're gonna find out, huh?
Yeah, I guess we're gonna find out. I have to say this just to get it off my chest, but I do love your tete-a-tetes on Facebook with Natasha and Cletus and everything, and Scratch and all that. But whenever I see the word Cletus on Facebook, I immediately think of clitoris because I'm a filthy person. So there's like this initial and then I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it. And that's not like what Katie would say, just because he wouldn't do that, but it's just.
Now I'm over here blushing.
So, anyway, I'll let you read and do your thing after my overshare.
Okay. Okay, so this is a story about a good friend of mine. Well, we used to be good. I think we're still. Let me just go ahead and start. So yeah, I thought about it, but the way I see it, if he hasn't shown up yet, he probably won't show, and well, the show still has to go on, right? Now, when I say I thought about it, I'm talking about me and Cletus doing this together. He knew I was going to be reading tonight. He looks at my posts. He's not fooling anyone. Nope, not fooling any freaking body. So if he wants to act like this, if he wants to act like our friendship doesn't mean anything when we both know it does, well, then that's on him. I mean, right? So I'm just going to tell my side. But where to begin? Like, how do I make you understand our dynamic? The complex, complicated conundrum that is KD and Cletus. So, like, he's the Magneto to my Professor X, the Megatron to my Optimus Prime. Are we the best of enemies or the worst of friends? How do you quantify legends? How is a legacy measured? We stole fire from the gods. We gave Pandora that box. We went to hell and played poker with Lucifer. We did with 2 men what SEAL Team 6 couldn't do with 7. But I digress. So I started to talk about what went down in DC at the Smithsonian, but that take too long. Then there's the Seattle sanction, but we're both still under that non-disclosure agreement. And we both agreed that after everything that went down, we don't talk about Seattle. And Dallas is, well, it's just too painful to mention. Every time I hear a harmonica, I think of Texas, and I think what happened to Sam and Dee. But that's the thick of it, huh? History. So much water under the bridge, and still waters run deep. So many times we survive by the skin of our teeth. Some days it was pure intestinal fortitude. Some days it was sheer guts. I don't know, Cletus. I mean, maybe it's you I should be talking to. I see you out there. I recognize that screen name. Yep, Legends Legacy. It's the one we used to use when we first got into the life. And yeah, I may be reading to the peeps out there, but this is a story of us. So I ask you, man to man, does the man make the moment, or does the moment make the man? Thing is, we both know memories are when man meets the moment, right? Memories. Seems that's all we have left anymore. Like, I'm here now feeling modeling over memories and a wistfulness over days gone by. Like even now I'm sitting here doing this reading and I'm sipping coffee. Well, I just sip coffee. And I'm thinking of the time we first became roommates. Now, this was before we agreed to get out of the life. It was the time you spilled coffee all over our white shag carpet. I mean, yeah, in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have slapped your back so hard while you had that mug in your hand. But in my defense, I thought you were choking. How could I have known that was you laughing? How was I to know you were laughing at a joke I made 5 minutes earlier? Seriously, it took you that long to catch the punchline? And do you know how much money I had to pay to get those coffee stains out? Removing brown stains from white carpet doesn't come cheap. I mean, yeah, I used your credit card, true, but I'm the one that had to schedule the cleaners. We stayed together for a year, and for over 12 months out of that year, you couldn't just let that go. It's like you always got to hold grudges, and no one holds a grudge like you, Cletus. To this day, I still think it was you that mixed that salt with my sugar. I mean, I can't prove it, but I know it was you because I remember the time I did it to you. And yeah, I laughed then. That face you made when you thought that was salt, it was priceless. But do you see me laughing now? Nope, no, you don't. And that time you lied and told my boss I was on meth, did I get mad? I mean, yeah, of course I did. I lost my security clearance behind that. But I didn't hold a grudge, did I? And here's another one. Did I get upset when you showed my ex that fake pic of me in Hawaii? I mean, yeah, it was a real picture. Yeah, true. but I told her it was fake. She thought I was visiting my mom. She ended up leaving me behind that, Cletus, but I still didn't hold a grudge. So, way I see it, we should both wipe the slate clean after that day I saved your life. Don't act like you don't remember. It was that time we came back from that contract assignment. Yeah, we agreed calling it the Black Site Affair was stupid, but it paid the rent. There was no wet work involved, so okay. Anyway, we get back and you take your boots off and smelled like sulfur and Limburger and chili cheese Fritos. Now on top of that, you were wearing my socks. I mean, yeah, it was your socks, yeah, but only because you paid for them and you wore them first. You got to them before I did. But I think that's beside the point, don't you? I mean, it's not like I want to wear them after that anyway. But that wasn't even the half of it. You put your stank, nasty foot on the coffee table and broke out the toenail clippers. I mean, come on, Cletus. Have a bit of couth about yourself. A little decorum goes a long way. And I asked you real nice not to do it. I mean, yeah, I asked with a few cuss words peppered in, and maybe my voice was ever so slightly elevated by a half octave or so. But I did say please in the end, right? Wait, was it please? Or was it you son of a... No, it was please. My point is, you did it anyway. You felt like you did what you needed to do. So I felt like I did what I needed to do. They say you make your bed, you sleep in it. They also say a clear conscience is the softest pillow. There's something you should know, Cletus. Something I'm only just now telling you. You left the clippings on the table. I took a pair of tweezers to a few of them. You remember the next morning when I made that strawberry banana smoothie? I told you I put a little something extra in it. You were just about to take a sip. Right then and there, I had a change of heart. I ran through the kitchen and tackled you like a blitz quarterback. I told you I saw a red dot on your chest. I blamed it on the Colombians. You know, revenge for being exposed in that rogue operation. It was a lie. There were no Colombians. Thing is, in my defense, your back was to the window. So how could the laser scope be on your chest? Yeah, Cletus, you were stupid enough to fall for it. So why did I lie and blame it on the Colombians? It was the smoothie. I gave you the wrong one. I gave you mine. Mine, it would have tasted like the nectar of the gods, gifting man the elixir of life. Yours would have tasted like Frito-flavored toenail clippings. But I guess we'll never know now. But here's the thing that bothered me all these years. You never once apologized for me saving your life. I almost took a bullet for you, Cletus. I mean, sure, it never happened, but you didn't know that until now, did you? But the smoothie part, yeah, you almost drunk my smoothie. And I had to dive at you like Michael Phelps in the Olympics to stop you. But did you hold on to the glass and stop it from spilling? Nope. Just one big mess on both of us. But on top of that, you turned around and drank the other smoothie. No, here you go, KD. No, here's a token of gratitude. Drink this one. Drink the other smoothie. I mean, yeah, it had the ground up toenail clippings in it, and there's no way I was going to drink it, but you didn't know that. So that's beside the point. And yeah, you know it now, but that's still beside the point. My point is, if anyone should hold a grudge, it should be me. But no, I always have to be the bigger man and extend the olive branch. I guess it comes down to this. It's a question. Where do we go from here? Can fences be mended? Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm asking questions I already know the answers to. Hypothetical? Maybe. I mean, what if it is? Rhetorical? Okay. Some days it feels like that situation in Memphis. I let it go. You didn't. Other days it feels like Cleveland. You let it go. I couldn't. It was my last bag of Skittles. Still, Cletus, none of that matters without your friendship. Yeah, we were larger than life. We were immortal. We were the ones who gave nightmares to monsters. And perhaps that is our legacy as well. To storm the Acropolis, claim our right to stand in a Parthenon among Titans, Hammurabi, Prometheus, Nimrod, Achilles. Let our poem be written alongside Ozymandias. Let us be remembered, not as mere mortals, but as legends. The end. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Katie.
Hope you liked it.
Absolutely. Let's see. I will go ahead and bring our other peeps back up here. I feel so empowered now that I can oh God, Hooker's the animal that's not in his exhibit at the zoo. Oh, well, maybe back. Let's see. Let's see. Let me take him off for now until I come back. All right. So, well, let's see. So how is everybody surviving the pandemic and all the other fun stuff that's going on?
I am so done with it.
Yep.
They won't let us be done with it, though. It just keeps going on and on and on.
Like that Energizer bunny just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, I just pulled my daughter out of freshman year of high school because it's ridiculous. They're not really learning anything. So now I'm homeschooling.
Oh, my.
Yay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would imagine that's got to, be a little interesting for writing and trying to get stuff done. And
Yeah, there's some juggling going on. And I'm sure I'll figure it out. But it's much better than what they were doing at school. And the stress that they're putting these kids under is absolutely ridiculous. So the anxiety that they're producing with all the stuff they're doing is not worth it. So I can teach her biology and geometry and English and all that stuff better than they're doing at school. So she's home now. She's thrilled.
okay, well, cool.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask Stephen a question?
Yes.
Stephen, that dinosaur over your head is so cool.
Yeah. I love that
stared
one.
at that the entire time you were reading.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, it's my pet, but I've kind of neglected
Amy,
feeding lately.
Unfortunately, I have to go. Work beckons.
Oh, Lane. All right.
I'll
Maybe
still
it
be
was
able
really
to
good,
chat
thank
though.
All right.
Nice having fun with everybody. Gotta go.
Okay, we'll see ya.
All right. So, Stephen, this is your pet.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a T-Rex skeleton.
Oh, cool.
It's just plastic.
Looks hungry.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, I don't think I want to.
The publishing company that I created is called Theropod Publishing, which so it's my background is in geology.
Huh.
I have one of the world's most worthless degrees that sounds impressive, and that's I have a bachelor's degree in vertebrate paleontology, which sounds great, but that qualified me to work in IT all of my career. So.
I have a degree in theater, which gave me pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
The rest of your life.
Yeah, mine's environmental, populational, and organismic biology.
Oh.
So I could be maybe a lab tech.
Okay.
Go out and count trees.
Yeah, there you go. I could probably be a wildlife. No, actually, I think they have a special certification for even working for the national parks now.
Crazy.
I can't do it.
So Emily, do you have a background in did you do theater at all in high school or anything?
Actually, no. And this is funny because most of my books, they always have a splash of science in them. If there's something that's in my writing that you'll notice. But this novella, it was like I knew I didn't have to send it to my editor, or I thought I didn't have to send it to my editor, and I just wanted it to be fun and I don't know. So I just decided to have her be completely different than my other characters. My first character in Fractured Magic, my first book, she's like away into science and all of that. So this was totally different. And then I found out I did have to send it to my editor and beg her to reject it so that I could give it away. And so she read it and got really mad at me and agreed to reject it for me so I could give it away. Otherwise, they wanted to publish it. And I was like, no, I want to try to give this away to get some members on my newsletter. So theater is exactly the opposite of my background. I do have I was a singer. I was singing when I was a teenager, but not a whole lot of theater. So no, science is more of my go-to. It's in all my books. It comes in later in this one a little bit, but yeah, I talk about like the genetics of the witch gene and all kinds of, just a little bit. It's just a little bit. It's not enough to be like, oh, I don't get it. It's just like a dash of science. I can't help it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was cool. I mean, just the comment about the sanctity of the theater. I was just like, okay, that sounds.
I was just totally having fun with my character. Like she's like, oh, the theater is everything. Whereas my other characters are like, oh no, it's the lab and like science is So I was just having so much fun with her, and yeah, it just kind of went from there. She's very opposite of me. So, yeah, no, I always say that my writing is more like magic rooted in science. So I always want to explain how magic could be real, how it could be a real thing and like actually exist in the world. But this the novella is definitely a little bit of a different start than my other books. So
cool. Well, Hooker, Deb wants us to tell you that she's your #1 fan. So I guess that you should be very, very concerned. But there's something
Why do I see Kathy Bates in my future?
Okay. Well, there's something I want to know. Like, she tells me that you were part of the music scene in Portland. Was it Portland?
It was Portland after Seattle.
Okay. And so, I mean, there's the whole, possible connection to Nirvana. But what I really want to know about is, like, what was the most disgusting apartment you ever stayed in?
Oh, my God. So, I don't know. There's a couple that'd be in the running for that one. So I stayed in one apartment in Seattle, which was right on the base of Capitol Hill. Every evening in the late spring through fall, there were these like weird flying ant-looking things that were in the wall, and the sun would hit that wall and heat it up, and they would just swarm out of there, like they had a nest in there, like hundreds of these things.
Like termites.
And then and after the sun went down, they'd be gone again. And then the next day, unless it was cloudy, which 50-50 chance in Seattle, it's going to be cloudy, but it was kind of gross. Yeah. That might be the worst one.
That's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it was a basement apartment that had one exterior wall, and that's where they decided to live.
Ugh. All right.
I had to move soon.
Yeah. How long were you there?
A couple months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine had the apartment. And I was like, he wanted a roommate, and I said, okay. And then I was like, I can't do it.
All right. Anybody else have some fond or not so fond apartment memories?
I lived in a string of like basement apartments in New York that were all awful. just like an 8-year period of just really crappy apartments in New York.
So were these like apartments where like, I mean, New York apartments, like, did you just like not even have a kitchen? Was it like a hot plate kind of situation or like?
The what I remember, I actually liked the apartment, but it can't have been legal. It was a basement and it was divided in two. There was this paper thin wall between me and the other person. We just hear literally everything that was happening in the other apartment, which I'm sure was more exciting for them than for me. It was just awful, just scary.
Wow.
And it was easy. It was definitely breaking fire regulations. I don't know what other regulations it was breaking. It was just nuts.
Okay.
I think he's winning so far.
Yeah, thin walls definitely your thing.
The worst thing I ever had to do was live across the hall from all the football players at CU while I was in the dorms.
Yikes.
They would always have parties like the night before I would have a huge test, so they would be loud and obnoxious and want to come over with their shirts off, and so I always loved it when CU lost because then they had extra practice. And then they couldn't party because they were in trouble. So, but that's not nearly as bad as you guys because I don't think I could handle the ants.
So the flying things.
No, I don't do good with flying bugs.
Yeah, like the big cockroach things. Those are.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no thanks.
That's one of the reasons I live in Colorado. We don't have very many bugs here.
Yeah, a lot of spiders here.
But I like spiders. But
I like spiders too.
I like spiders. They eat the bugs.
Yeah, I agree. I love spiders. There's all we've got is around here is spiders.
I don't know if any of you go camping at all, but that's the one thing I love about Colorado when you go camping is that you're not sharing your tent with a gazillion bugs.
Uh-huh.
I lived in Missouri and in Virginia, and it's like I don't even really want to go camping there. It's just not worth the battle. It's like the whole biosphere wants to eat you.
Yeah. Although there definitely are some buggy spots. Like, I don't know. I was at the Island Acres campground in Fruita like a couple of years ago, but there's water right there, so
yeah, you get the mosquitoes.
Those, yes. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, Colorado's not too bad for bugs. I mean, like it's nothing like Texas or
yeah.
Arkansas has a lot of mosquitoes.
Ew.
Like because they grow a lot of rice there, so they have the stagnant water for the rice levees. Yeah. And it's just insane. And I'm a mosquito magnet anyway, so my dad's family was there, and I lived there for about 4 months one summer, and I was just one big giant mosquito bite the whole time. They just flocked to me. It was insane. I hate mosquitoes.
Your sweetness, I guess, is what they do. I don't know.
I do eat a lot of sugar.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up tonight. Is there anything anybody wants to share before we sign off here?
Thanks for having us. This is a really cool thing, particularly during the pandemic when nobody could get it. But even as it goes on, it's just kind of a nice community of writers and listeners and musicians.
Yeah. Really, always enjoy it. Thank you for being together.
Yeah, I enjoyed all of your guys' stories, and it was a pleasure to sort of kind of meet some of you that I hadn't met yet anyway.
Yeah. I enjoyed your music. That was awesome. It was a great start.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to, have this time where we can, be social. So definitely look forward to it. Okay, well, I will let you guys go. I'm probably going to have to find something to eat soon. So good night, all.
Okay. Good night. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, that's our show for tonight. I would like to just put the word out there that, you know, I would so appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. We can finally get a custom URL so it's easier to find this channel once we get 100 subscribers. And, you know, it's not a money thing or anything like that, I promise. Also, like, our next show is on December 16th. It's at 7 p.m. as well. And the theme of that show is gifts. So if you're interested in reading for that, just feel free to send me a private message on Facebook. I can actually, hang on, let me get our Facebook group URL and I can share it in the chat here. I'll also try to remember to post it in the description of the show. But, you know, anytime you want, you can definitely reach me on here. You know, or if you just want to like join and like, you know, post something in the discussion saying, you know, I'd like to read, you know, that's great too. And yeah, because we're always looking for new readers on here. And I guess that's it. I'm trying to think if there's any other housekeeping stuff I have to do, but that sounds like it. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next month. So take care.